The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couture, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
No, I know. I mean, you'll do it.
You got
it.
sure.
A little rosé?
Just a little bit. Okay. Thank you.
Just
There's
a little bit.
spit cups here if you're not in.
For breakfast?
Just a little breakfast.
A little breakfast rosé?
A little breakfast.
Hey.
John, you want a little rosé?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, does your pass also include tubing?
Can I get a pour?
I don't know.
Bart?
I'm
Alrighty,
not a
buddy.
skier or a snowboarder,
But you would
I
do some-
am a mean
Go ahead.
Mean tuber. I don't know if they tubing used to be a thing.
I don't know. Can you tube at
Palisades, Tahoe.
Palisades?
I don't know if they're.
Oh, man.
They used to have that whole like tubing
Tubing area.
fun zone area, and ever since it's been corporate owned, they took all the fun out of it.
Wait, are
Wait a
tubers
minute.
Are the
we
new
talking about the wine
snowboarders?
business, or are we talking about the
Yes.
ski industry?
Tubing, it's like an inner tube that you'd float down a river, but instead it's like on a sled hill.
But
Sounds
like
fun to
on the
me.
normal slopes with skiers?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's why
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I was
going
gonna
to
say, that's a
It's
nightmare.
like next to the bunniest of the bunny slopes.
Okay.
Tahoe Donner used to have at the golf course.
Right.
They had
you
that
do it on,
tubing
you do it on a
area.
golf course because it's a fairly
Right.
gentle.
But they had like berms built into it. It was really fun. I'm
Moguls.
sure it's still there. But it was like a racetrack.
We used to do that at Incline Village, but we did it on the golf course.
Right.
We would just bring
like saucers and
Yeah, we'd go there in the winter.
Yeah, well, they figured out how to monetize that.
and then in the,
That is exactly what
how
tubing
can we
is.
sell sledding?
and then summertime skateboarding down the cart pass.
Well, welcome everybody. We are the Winemakers. Good morning. It's very
Wait, who
nice.
the hell is that talking?
Very nice to be back.
John Myers.
Parlez-vous français?
Yeah,
Comment ça
seriously.
va, Jean?
Jean.
Jean.
Like the shirt, like the black pants, the black undershirt, the hair is like a little longer.
Nice beret, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have
Had
butter
a
and
wonderful
cheese
time,
for
man.
breakfast?
Spent most of the time in the country.
So?
Oh, beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was not a Parisian trip, that's for sure. So had a great time. Brought back some good photos. Had fun.
Well, you want to give us?
I love John.
Because I know
I love
we could.
John. Everybody else goes and they try to smuggle something back in, and John comes back with photos.
Sweet.
God,
Lots of them though.
We could probably do a whole podcast on the trip, but do you want to give us a brief just synopsis of?
We started in Burgundy and we were there 4 or 5 days. Visited our sister city of Chambol-Musigny, and this giant. Thanks, Bart. Giant.
Did you know that we rated as high enough to be sister cities with Chambol-Musigny?
I've been there.
Oh, you've been
Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, they
in
gave
your search for 40 hectares and no older brother.
correct.
Right.
And matter of fact, Jeff Bunch, got the key to the city.
There you go. See, that's a good thing. No, they're very involved. And we took a bottle of Eau de Tête to one of the winemakers who's coming over here in July or August, and we ought to get him on the show.
Did you set up a show for us?
Yeah.
Yes.
ABC, always be closing.
Then we drove through
Wine
Sancerre.
WPS wine podcast.
Yes.
We drove through Sancerre and Viesley over to Anzane, where Bart had his honeymoon with Terry. And so that was a really nice spot. We stayed 4 or 5 days over there and just hung out on the river.
On Zane was the first and only time I had eel.
Ooh, how was it prepared?
That's a very good question.
You're like, it was weird.
It came out in
prepared
a bowl with, like a sauce or a broth and some
Nice.
vegetables. But I had no idea what I was eating. We were like actually in a restaurant where no one spoke English, and and there was no English.
Take us on a
On the
ride.
menu.
There was no English menu, and so eventually I ate it and it was delicious. And I asked him what it was, and he finally
just
came
a
out and he
fish.
says it was. He said longfish, and I went, ooh, longfish, and he goes, yeah, EEL, and I'm like, you mean ELL?
Well, hey, it's good no matter what. I mean,
I love you.
I had a lot of snails,
Unagi?
some frog legs,
Nagi, yes.
lots of good stuff. And then we went north of Paris for about 2 hours north and followed Monet where he was painting along the Seine River. And it gets real serpentine. It goes up and down, around. And it was very cool. Paris for 4 days. Nice.
And then you smuggled no cured meats home. It's all right.
I didn't bring duck. I didn't bring cassoulet. I didn't bring wine. I didn't bring.
He doesn't really love us.
I'm sorry. I brought a wine list from.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
There we are.
But we had plenty of Burgundy, Rhone, Loire wine. There's not much north of Paris unless you go east. Into Champagne, North Burgundy. But the Burgundian wines were absolutely the standout. And
That's what I've heard.
They're very different from the Bordeaux's that I
hear they're
Winemakers Podcast. You'll hear it here first. Burgundy is good.
Yeah, they're making some decent wine there.
But we got into a couple, really nice cellars, farm type cellars where you just head downstairs and somebody's got
Watch your head. Stay on the ground.
decades, if not millennium of wine stashed downstairs.
2013 Dom Perignon, €405. But on this list, Domaine de la Broche,
Yes.
friend of the podcast, Julian Burrow, a 2013 for €135. That's the one you should have ordered.
I mean,
that was about as much as we ever paid for anything.
Yeah,
I mean, and they brought a Margot out and cut us a really nice deal on it, like half. So he said, "I have too much." It's
I like
I'll help you out.
Negotiable wine prices.
well, right when
wine
you're in
list prices.
Burgundy, you drink out of the Rhone in the restaurants, or you drink Bordeaux,
Right.
The Loire. And when you're in Bordeaux, you drink
Burgundy.
But none of that equals Bart's new
Well, let's get into
grand opening.
Well, we also
and we have a special guest.
Yeah.
I could listen about France.
Yeah,
Forever.
we were going to talk about me and you rate over me.
I think I've only been to France once, and I went to Paris, and I went to Marseille, and it was in middle school for our study abroad spring break trip. We spent like half a week in France, and then trained from France to Barcelona.
Even
because it was
better.
half of the French students and half of the Spanish students. It was really, really.
Wait, how old are you in middle school?
And this is Justin
Not old enough to
from Ward.
drink the wine.
Oh yeah.
Hey, who are you? Why are you here?
Oh hello.
Fabulous.
She definitely has a voice
I
for
think
radio.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, how old is I think I was probably 13 or 14. So just imagine 40,
Wow.
13-year-olds.
I know that's
romping.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy fun.
Just trying to wrangle them all. Where did they what did they take you to?
So we went to all the different museums. We went to the Louvre. We went to Marseille. We went to like all these incredible gardens. We did not go to any wineries because we were not old enough to drink yet. But we went to a lot of really cool like restaurants and had caviar and ate escargot. And it was classic 13, 14-year-olds where we're like, "Ooh, do we eat the caviar? Do we eat the escargot?" And I'm like, well, I've been doing this because my parents raised me to enjoy the fun of things.
Right.
So I was like, I'll eat your things. Oh, you don't want this. Oh, you poor soul.
yes,
It's fine.
Snails, you don't want
It's
that.
fine.
And you
then
know-
we went to Barcelona and went and saw like this. What is it? The Sagrada Familia.
Yes.
And
Cathedral de la Sagrada
Yes.
Familia, which I think is almost done.
Actually, they
stop it.
They took the
You're kidding me,
they took
right?
the
I think I saw an article
scaffolding
like
off. Yeah,
last
done.
week or something that they said it's almost finished. This is like 200 years in that they've been like trying to finish this thing, but yeah.
Well, and
to read up on
Notre
Barcelona.
Dame is almost done too. They've got the rest
The
of this.
rebuild of the Notre Dame.
Yeah,
that did not take 200 years.
It did not.
That seemed very fast.
Yeah.
They said by the end of the year, all the scaffolding will be off. They hired some a woodworker from like Buffalo, New
Oh, I'm
York.
sure there were many woodworkers from all over the place.
Well, he came over to volunteer, and he was so damn good. They put him in charge of the project. So
Smart guy.
They are rolling along.
You know, on that same note, a little pay of respect. When we were in Copenhagen, they were redoing the stock exchange, which goes back like to the 1490s.
Didn't that just burn?
And it just burned, and it had a spire like unlike or like the Notre Dame, and it burned. And they were almost done with it. They were like, it was supposed to be done in 6 or 8 months. Just a shame. Just a shame. So.
Well, the Notre Dame
funny,
fire was incredible.
When Terry said, she goes, well, the stock market, she goes, what do you think it was? Full of, she didn't remember that we'd, read about it. And I said, no, the stock market, like that's where you brought your stock and traded it with other farmers. It was
okay. I misunderstood that too.
Right. But
okay.
That's how far it went back.
Well, Terry also lives in
the stock
market,
world.
the waking up. Yeah.
Maybe a little tunnel visioned, but yeah. Anyway, yeah. So let's go back to you.
Hello. Hi.
Good morning. Ward 4. Cool name.
Thank you.
I like it. This is the second winery we've had on that has had something governmental. Well, we have R5 from the R5 line.
Oh, no. So
that was
a Wayback Machine
with Mr. Kieran Robeson.
And that was the subway system in Philly.
Yes.
Nice.
And then
we're gonna start some fucking shittier between Philly and DC, though. I don't know what side we want to move.
East Coast transportation, you can't beat it. Go DC Metro system. Red line, baby.
Absolutely. Well, welcome this morning. Good morning. Give us a little bit about how you got into wine.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Justin. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the owner of Ward 4 Wines. It's pretty cool. I always like to say wine was in my future before I was even born. I'm a 90s baby, so I was born in 1995. But in 1990, I know I'm the baby.
95.
But I'm not. I'm almost 30. Oh, time flies.
There you go.
But in 1994, my mom and dad went out to California. My dad's a 4th generation DC native, and my mom grew up in Houston and went to Jersey and eventually DC. And they've always loved wine. Food and wine has always been like their big spark and their big joy. In 94, they went up and down California wine country from Coppola, like crying on the Coppola Godfather desk. Like, my mom's a big movie head, all the way down to Paso Robles and going to like places old school like Eberly and going to Talbot's Creek, and being able to go to Justin Vineyards. I like to say they had a lot of fun because I was born pretty shortly after that.
Okay.
And my name's Justin.
Yep.
So I sort of say, even though I wasn't like born into the wine industry was always sort of like, hey, come and hang out with us. So 1995, I was born, and I grew up with wine on the table. I feel like for a lot of Black communities, you don't really grow up with wine on the table, having conversations about wine, having conversations about food and hospitality. And I felt really lucky to not only talk about it at my dinner table, but also being able to go to all these awesome restaurants all throughout DC.
Well, can you talk about that? Like, what was it that your parents did that, piqued their interest in food and wine that way?
So my parents are in politics. My dad always has said it takes a lot of great wine to do politics. So I always knew.
Sounds familiar.
Right? If I were to make wines,
yeah.
I'd have a market for it. But it was pretty cool. My dad went to Dartmouth for college, and he was one of the originators of the Dartmouth Wine and Cheese Club at Wheeler Hall.
Smart guy.
Super smart guy. So it was pretty cool. He was like, this is a great way to be able to have a budget to buy wine and buy snacks and get along with my friends. And smart man. He eventually graduated from Dartmouth and started his graduate school at Howard University. And while he was there studying and continuing for law, he actually wrote speeches for the current mayor back then, Marion Barry.
Yeah.
Marion Barry.
What a man.
Marion Barry
Blast
too.
from the past.
I think you have to,
From
right?
the past.
Gotta ding
So that
Marion
was like
Barry.
one of his first big jobs. And at the same time, he was starting to get into sustainable energy, and he slowly but surely transitioned specifically from politics to sustainable energy and how that relates. My mom, on the other hand, works with the mayor. So she's currently working with Mayor Muriel Bowser. So they're very political, but they're also very like home oriented. Yeah, that's my family. And I have a little brother, and he's going to graduate.
And where
this
did
year.
you get the moniker Head Wine Witch?
Oh my gosh. I've always been into spooky things. every year, even before I started Word for Wines, I come out with a list of 31 days of Halloween, be it Halloween movies, scary movies, podcasts, books, television shows. I love spooky things, but I also feel like I'm pretty in tune with nature and with like the world around me. So I'm very intentional and I manifest a lot of things. So I like to say I'm the head wine witch because, you can be a winemaker, but,
Wine witch is
wine
definitely
which is
above
that much
winemaker.
cooler, and wine really is that perfect blend of art and science because you have to be technical, you have to be able to listen to the grapes, smell the wines, taste things, making sure things are going down the correct track, but it's also very much so like a stylistic style influence as well.
And you've got a couple of friends in common with us in the podcast with Casey Graybill, the Granation.
Oh, you're
The
making
one and
wines at
only-
Obsidian?
And Peter Molnar at Obsidian.
I love those guys. I am so thankful for the Obsidian wine team, who I believe is opening up their base camp around the downtown area in the next few weeks.
Yeah, they're going into the old Lake Sonoma spot.
Oh, good. They're
kinda
getting a taste room here.
Like
huh?
half a block off the
God,
Yeah, sort of in that down the alley.
Obsidian, John, not Casey. Obsidian's going in there.
Right.
Yeah.
But they've been down at Cornerstone forever, and I'm wondering if they're just not getting the traffic, or are they keeping that one too?
I don't know if they're keeping it, but all I know is I cannot wait to go to base camp.
That's what they're going to call it, as base camp.
That's what they're gonna call it, or at
That's
least
a
that's
cool
what I've
space.
seen.
Yeah, we need to get those guys on the show. It's
Yes.
I know. Yeah, we need to make that happen.
I think that every time we try, Casey just trips them on the way out and comes in and shows up himself.
Shoves
I
them out
love
to the
it.
side.
She used to.
The Grenachista, the
He
best.
photoshops him into every episode he
Well, I
can
mean,
find.
last time it was on, we had that conversation. It was like, how many times have you been on? He may be
He's up there.
Up there, yeah.
Yeah.
Because not because we like him, just because of Grenache Day.
Because he
The king of
Shared
Grenache.
because
love.
he keeps showing up.
Careful. There's someone else in the area that thinks they're the king of Grenache.
There can be
Where?
multiple kings.
And he's great at Photoshop. He
really
puts
is.
himself and his logo.
No, it's weird when he posts pictures that aren't photoshopped. You know, like a couple years ago, he went on a trip to France, I think, and you're like, "Is this Photoshop? Is this real?" He's like, getting
Where
really
is
good at these photoshops. Look at him, he's there in Burgundy.
I would not. Word 4 would not be a thing without Obsidian Wines and Casey and the Grenache.
Okay.
They are like the most incredible people, the most incredible team. When I decided to start my brand in 2022, I'm fully grant funded. So I was looking at, the backgrounds and the importance of custom crushes and the different fees that they're doing, and like the accessibility in regards to like where you're custom crushing. Like custom crush fees in Napa are 3, 4, 5
Crazy.
times more expensive than custom crush fees here in Sonoma. And even a lot of the custom crush fees here in Sonoma were still outside of my very much so small scale affordability. So I reached out to a lot of different places, and I was like, hey friends, like, does anyone know a place I could go and do a custom crush? And my friend Simone Mitchelson, she was really intentional. Was like, I worked at this awesome custom crush place called Obsidian. Reach out to them and see, if they have any capacity to be able to take you on. And I reached out to the team, and I got to meet Casey, and he was so nice. And I basically explained to him, this is fully grant funded. I have $20,000 to make 100.
Well, you told him how much you had. You should have told.
Yes.
You told him the real
You
amount.
should have told him half the money you actually had.
Well, it was already published by
He's
then.
like, oh, yeah, we could do it
He
for
could have
that.
typed it in and been
Will
like,
you-
you lied to me.
Justin, will you talk about the grants a little bit and where they came from?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
'Cause I know-
we got to start
yeah,
back farther.
I know.
Yeah.
There's
There's a lot of little
We're in the
pieces.
middle as always. We'll get there.
And how
eventually.
you ended up in Sonoma instead of Paso?
So it was pretty interesting.
Right, because Justin.
What kind of question is that?
I
Well,
know.
no, because I've
her
heard
name
you
is
talk
Justin.
about Paso Robles before, and so I would have thought that would have been where you would have set
I
up
still
base
source
camp.
grapes from there.
Yeah.
So I will say San Luis Obispo, Paso Robles, Santa Barbara County is always going to be my number one love. I rep that region so hard, and there's so many different styles of wines from there, and it's just such a cool area. I love that region because I studied at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. So I graduated from high school in 2013, and summer of 2013, I packed up my bags, stuffed them in my dad's car, and we drove cross country from Washington, D.C. all the way over to San Luis Obispo. It was really cool. It was the year Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball came out. And
you came in like a wrecking ball.
Blasted that song the whole trip. I remember my dad talking to me and my mom about that trip years later, and he's like, I just wanted my head to explode. It was the only song that Justin wanted to listen to.
What was it that you came out to study?
Wine.
Wow.
So Cal Poly's really interesting. You know, I was...
And also, can you
Right.
grow up in D.C. and then end up in San Luis Obispo? There had to have been
Google.
There had to have been some like whiplash there.
Yes.
Totally.
So I went from Chocolate City, very,
Right.
very black, to San Luis Obispo, where I was the only black student within my major. And then I was
I thought you were going to say within a 20-mile radius.
0.1% of the entire student population at Cal Poly. So that was a total transition.
We went from like a city to an ag town.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting for me because,
Beach
you know,
town.
growing
Beach town.
ag town, it was a perfect blend of everything. So basically, my mom Googled Cal Poly. She was like,
Are you sure?
You want to go into hospitality? You want to go into wine? Let's Google places. And she was like, well, you could go to Cornell or you could go to Vermont, but Vermont only has food science and Cornell is really cold. And my mom was like, you could ski, you could ski or you could snowboard, or
Right.
you could surf.
You
And I was
could
like,
tube.
I probably will not do any of them, but I will go in the water. And yeah, I found Cal Poly and they said you have to choose your major going into it.
Right.
So Cal Poly, I chose wine and viticulture. I took a chance. And in my very first quarter while there, they basically sit you down in your orientation class. They say during this entire first quarter, we're going to take you through different like circumstances of each sector of the industry. And then at the end of this first quarter within your entire 4-year program, you're going to choose between business, viticulture, or enology. And then that will be your mainstay, your main course. But then throughout the 4 years, you'll also still be able to take, viticulture classes and learn how to prune and learn how to make wine. And coming to it from Concrete Jungle, I was like, hospitality, wine, business, this is exactly what I want to do. And then over the course of my 4 years, I realized dirt's sort of cool. Like,
Yeah, it is.
I actually like being out in nature. I like
Dirt is
making
sorta
wine.
cool.
I like working on.
That's a
orchards.
T-shirt.
Yeah, it is. I was going to say
Dirt
the
is
same
sort of
thing.
cool. I like that. And I basically transitioned over the course of my 4 years from hospitality over to more so wine, like winemaking and viticulture. But I always have had hospitality. I finished with hospitality. I'm always going to be hospitality. But I really wanted to be able to get that like all-encompassing idea. And that was really why I ended up moving from Paso, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo up to Napa. Because when I started, my very first job within like the wine industry as a whole was in 2016, and I worked at Trabue Creek. After
No
it
shit.
was really cool. It was really cool.
Double ding Tablas Creek.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love topless.
Those wines are beautiful. The team is awesome. Their education program for their employees is so top notch that I learned about not only like the Paso region as a whole, but they teach you all about the Rhone region because of that relationship with the Beaucastel family.
Yeah.
And it really showed me like the beauty of Rhone wines because, we're in Paso, so we were talking about a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon, but then we were so close to Santa Barbara, so we were talking a lot about Pinot Noir. And then I learned about this whole new region. And then from Tablas Creek, I learned about the Rhone Rangers. And that's how I started to do like volunteering events before I even turned 21. So that was really, really cool as well. But I started working in hospitality with Tablas Creek, and that was after my study abroad in Adelaide. When I studied abroad in Adelaide, my junior year of college, I basically was there during their harvest season. I was there from January until April, and it was my first time getting to see a harvest front line. And I was studying at the University of Adelaide, going through all these different wine business courses, but I was over here looking at all these different international people from all over, making wine, traveling all around. And I was like, that would be really cool. So I worked my very first tasting job at Tablas Creek and was like, I think I want to transition more into production. So I transitioned down into Santa Barbara County, and I started making Pinot Noir with the legendary Lane Tanner. And
Yep.
She deserves
Cool.
all the dings. She's my wine mentor. She's
What
my
label?
biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
And she's the winemaker for Lumen Wines. So I worked at Lumen Wines from 2016, which was my very first harvest ever, all the way up until the 2020 harvest. I worked my way from her cellar rat all the way to her assistant winemaker. And it was so incredible because I not only got to work with her, I also got to work with her husband, Ricky Hill, who is the winemaker for Tantara Wines. So it was so cool to be able to work for her in these like beautiful, elegant Pinot Noirs and be able to work with Ricky. And he also makes these like heavier, fuller bodied, more rustic Pinots. But then he's also working with Cabernet Sauvignon. He's working with Petit Syrah, with Petit Verdot. And I'm working with all these different varieties, all in these really small lots. Like it was about 30 tons for Lumen Wines, and then probably about maybe like 150 tons for Tantara. So it was really cool to see these smaller spots. But while I was there, I was like, okay, I'm getting to see these smaller sectors, but I want to be able to scale and be able to actually see like what working at a larger facility would be at. So I went and did a harvest in New Zealand. And I did my very first international harvest in New Zealand in 2019.
5,000 tons of Sauvignon Blanc.
Luckily, no. We did. It was 20,000 cases, and it was over in Hawke's Bay.
Nice.
So I worked in Hawke's Bay over at this really, really incredible place called CJ Pask Winery.
Cool.
And we got to work with like old school iconic Gimlet Gravel Syrah. So we did a lot of beautiful Syrah.
Wait. What? Gimlet gravel? What?
Do you know Gimlet Gravel? Okay, so in the Hawke's Bay, there's this really incredible region there called called Gimlet Gravels. And Gimlet Gravels has these incredible gravelly soils where they make beautiful, beautiful Syrah.
Huh. I've never heard that term.
Yum.
Just stop by the bottle barn on the way home.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
See if Barry's got any Gimlet
Gravel?
Gimlet Gravel Syrah.
Yeah.
Are you guys thinking about like the energy that hit all these places? Like the energy that hit Cal Poly when she started there, the energy that hit Tobless Creek when she got there. I mean,
I'm a
but
ball
also
of joy.
understand
I know.
why DC is so fucked up because she left and all that energy left there. It's all your fault.
It is. It really is.
All right, so bring it home all the way to Sonoma then. Okay, so
so 2019, I went and did my very first harvest abroad in New Zealand. No, I moved to San Luis Obispo in 2013. 2019 was my very first year I met another Black person within the wine industry.
and was who?
And it's my really good friend. His name is Marlon Keith Nobles. He's South African, and I met him in a tasting room in the Hawke's Bay. I was chatting with my friend group about another friend named Bryn Bradley who lived in Paso Robles with me. He's chatting with his friend group behind me. He's like, "Are you talking about Bryn Bradley?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm talking about Bryn Bradley. How do you know Bryn Bradley? We're down in a brand new continent." And he's like, "I did a harvest with her in Paso Robles." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." And I was also like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cool to see somebody who looks like me." And he was like, "Same girl." And we became very, very close friends very, very quickly. And he was one of the main reasons that I ended up doing a harvest in 2022 in South Africa. And that was my very
you
first
are
year.
well traveled, girl.
Well traveled.
Yeah. A
It took
winemaking nomad.
It took
to
me a
quote
while
somebody else.
to be able to. It took me a long time to be able to like save up to be able to go and do harvest abroad. And then it also took me a long time to be able to actually get the courage to say, "Hey, let's go and do a harvest abroad." 2022 was really cool. I worked over in Elgin at this incredible spot called Almankirk Wines. And that was my first vintage working with an all-black cellar team, vineyard team, and tasting room team. And I lived on the property with 8 dogs.
Excellent. What kind?
It was awesome.
All mutts.
All mutts. All
Excellent.
mutts. Actually, there was one really big Great Dane. And his name was Gaston.
Speaking of Dane, is this yours?
no.
This is from Ward 4?
So here's
A
the
Shiner
thing with
from
Justin's
Ward
wine
4.
production.
All right.
Is that there's not enough wine to even open up the one bottle that we have on the table. So you brought a little barrel sample?
I did.
Well, you're
No
also
bottle
you're sold
sample.
out
The
on
bottle
everything.
sample.
So at Word 4, I sell most of my wines DTC. So DTC through my online website, or I sell through different wine shops and restaurants. I also do this really cool gondola tasting experience over in Napa on the Napa River. My partner is the general manager at the Napa Valley Gondolas. So it's an authentic Venetian boat. And we take you on a 55-minute wine tasting. And I'll bring tastings in either these little 250s or 375 containers for the people that come. And then we take them on a little ride.
Wait, I've never heard of that before. I thought you were going to say it was at Sterling. And I'm like, how do you get around pouring your wine at Sterling? So it's a different kind of gondola. It's an
different
actual
type of
like
gondola.
Italian kind of like
Italian
gondola thing.
Venetian gondola, like the merchants of Venice.
Have you guys ever heard of this?
I had no idea.
I actually remember seeing something about it, but I guess I didn't realize. I thought it was maybe like it was coming. I didn't realize it actually had happened.
Napa Valley Gondola.
So wait a minute. This wine in our glass is a bottle sample.
It is. It's a bottle
and
sample.
so what
I pour
is
them in
it?
it. So this is a 2022 Petite Syrah. 100%.
So it's the same as what's in the bottle.
It's the same as what's in the bottle.
Okay.
100% Petite Syrah, certified organic from this beautiful vineyard up in Healdsburg called Grist Vineyard.
Yeah, that's Jen.
Yeah, Duck Daughter gets
Jen Reichart
Yeah,
gets some
she gets
fruit
some of
from
that
there.
too.
I think
Oh.
some Syrah
Yes,
though, right?
Right.
And for Little Trouble as well.
Right.
Yeah.
The vineyard
About
owner
to have
is
a baby,
Woody Hambrecht.
by the way.
He's awesome. Who's about to have... I know, Jen's about to have a
Jen-
baby.
Like any day now.
Any day
Shout
now.
out to Jen. Hopefully you have lots of
Shout out,
times to
Jen.
sit there and listen to podcasts, nursing your new baby boy.
No.
We love
I
you.
think that
Excited
right
for
now
you.
she has no time.
No, she has no time for anything because she's one of the busiest people on the face of the planet.
She's a baddie.
Yeah.
How did they come
2
out
wine
with
labels and a duck business.
Killer duck business.
And her husband's in the wine business.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and
And they also have
they had
another
some
brand,
issues with the
Alcohol
duck
Wines,
supply.
right?
You know, with
One of my
avian flu, I
favorite
know
California
that.
pig pools.
They came out of that good.
They came-
It was
yeah.
delicious.
I'm a
and
pig
the
pull guy.
label.
Here we go. This is when we get two
conversations
conversations
going.
going on at the same time.
It's awesome.
We're talking about pig pool.
From Et al. Wines. We love it.
All right, so a little explanation
The
of
ducks
your
are
label,
fine, by
please.
the way, John.
Yes, absolutely. So Ward 4 Wines pays homage to my family and the city that raised me. This is an homage to Chocolate City all the way down to the label and the label artist. Although all my grapes are from California, all of my artists are from Washington, D.C. I either went to high school with them or I've met them over the times going back over there.
Great acidity on
Great
this wine.
acidity. Grist is such a beautiful, beautiful property. It's up at the top of Bradford Mountain. It's got this incredible elevation, and the soils are just so pretty. It's such a fruity wine, but it's still got this elegance to it. It is full-bodied. This is like, what is it, 14.8?
14.8?
But it's
Wow.
still so fresh and lively. This is my only wine that sits in barrel for over a year. This sits in barrel for 16 months.
What kind of like new, old?
So in one neutral French barrel and one 30-gallon new French barrel from Demtos, medium toast plus.
How much did you pay for that thing?
You know, I think it was $500.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Say, is it actually half of what it costs for a new barrel? Apparently.
Thank you, Kobe.
Does
You're the best.
Peter Molnar try and make you get into Hungarian oak
Oh
barrels?
my gosh. It is really interesting that you mentioned that. I don't need any convincing. When I worked at Lumen Wines, Lane worked with majority Kadar barrels. So it was pretty interesting when I feel like Lumen and Kadar and Obsidian was just like this perfect manifestation, because I go after chatting with Casey over the phone and go and look at the Obsidian wine facility, and I'm walking through there and I see all these Kadar barrels, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my boss Lane, she loves Kadar. She's been using them for decades. She even got to go to Hungary to go and visit the property because they love her so much. And Casey's over here like,
It's a cool
yeah,
place.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Yeah. And then he tells me like a week later, like, they make those barrels. Like, they have the relationship with those barrels. I was like, why'd you let me talk?
Those guys have a relationship.
He's like,
with
because it was fun.
They know the forest. They know the trees. They know what to do,
Everything.
how to age, how to cut. I mean, it's an amazing place.
It's amazing place. And those fooders that they make as well. Just,
Yeah.
you know, when I get a little bit more money, I would love to get some,
Right.
get some
Yeah,
new barrel.
we could all use some grants for some foodra.
Yes.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
I'll take one.
Yeah.
Okay, grants.
Oh, yeah, let's get back to the grants.
To the grants.
the grants.
Great transition.
Yes. It's almost like I did it on purpose.
Yes. So I started at Cal Poly in 2013. During that first quarter, when they have us choose what our major is, they say, if you could do anything within the wine industry, what would you do? And, I wrote in my notebook and I was like, I would start this wine brand and it would pay homage to my family and it would be called Ward 4 Wines. And I worked with different varieties and I just tucked it away in my mind. And I held on to the idea of Ward 4 Wines from 2013 all the way up until 2021. And in 2021, my really good friend Diana, who's the owner of Responsible Hedonist Wines, which is based out of New Zealand.
I like the
I don't know that, but I love that name.
And you're
Yeah.
going to love the labels.
Okay.
They're awesome. She makes
Responsible
gorgeous
Hedonist.
wines. Responsible Hedonist wines. And at that point,
Responsible hedonist.
isn't it so cool?
That's the goal, right?
That is the absolute
the
goal. She's originally from the Midwest, but at that point she was making her wines in New Zealand. So she had stumbled upon this really cool grant called the Courier Fresh Fund Grant. And because she was in New Zealand, she wasn't eligible for it. So she reached out to her community. Community is everything. That's how I've gotten everything. And she was like, hey, you should apply for this grant called Courier Fresh Fund. And I was like, okay, great. And then I sat on it for 3 months and I was like, I've moved to this new region. I've been in Napa for, a few months now. And what better time than now to try and follow my dreams? And I submitted my application hours before it was due. And they required us to do a video for it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be posting this video. And I know all these other people have all these cool marketers. And it's me at 10 p.m. at night in a sweater, like, hi there, I'm Justin, and you should choose me for your grant. And I was just really raw and authentic. And I was like, I have this idea for Ward 4 Wines. I've held it close to myself for years. And with this money, I'd be able to actually start my passion project. And they had grants between $15,000 to $25,000. And I tried to get that $25,000 grant. And it came back and it was like $15,000. And I was like, oh my God, I got it. But also this is not enough money to do what I need to do.
Right.
And I'm like, all right. But now I have this fire in my belly, in the pit of my belly. And people believe in me. People that I don't even know believe in me. People that are not even in this country believe in me. People all the way over in the UK believe in me. So let's get this money. Yeah. And I applied for 2 other grants. I applied for this awesome grant called the Lift Collective. It's a really amazing organization based out of Austin, Texas. And they did this entrepreneurial grant for women founders, within the wine industry. And I was able to receive $5,000 more. So it's like, all right, I got $20,000. And Lift Collective was really cool because they had all these different seminars and all these different trainings and Zoom sessions with people from logistical sides and people from compliance and people from the law and the tax.
And those are mandatory, or those are things where this is
mandatory.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that they were, because I learned so much. Because I hear people talk about these grants and these scholarships, and people are like, they threw all this money at me and it was great. But I didn't really have community, and I had this money and I didn't really know what to do with it or how to move forward. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. I not only am gaining my business, I have other friends specifically within wine, women within wine, that are also starting these different businesses, not specifically winemaking. Some of them were, some of them weren't, but we're on all these different sectors. And that was really awesome to have that community. And then my final $4,000, I got to $24,000, was from the Roots Fund. And they're really cool. Roots Fund is nationwide, international. And it was really cool because they helped me with my study abroad with my harvest abroad in South Africa. It took me 3 years to save to go and do a harvest abroad in New Zealand. So when the Roots Fund came out, I knew that this would be a great opportunity to be able to actually be able to go to a new region, learn about winemaking, learn about those styles, and not take 3 years to be able to save up for it. They were able to pay for my flight to get there.
And tell people that are listening that they think if you go do a harvest abroad that basically you just fly over there and they put you in a house and they pay you money. But what is it? What is it really like?
Reality?
I mean,
that is reality. But also it's a lot of hard work but also it's a lot of fun and a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
It was so cool. My harvest in South Africa was awesome. Like I said, we lived on the property, and I remember getting there our first week, going down to the winery, and there's this pallet of like mixed case of wines, and they're like, "Hey, throw that pallet on the back of this truck," and we're like, "Okay," and then like, and drive it up to the house, and we're like, "Okay," and they're like, and take all that wine and put it in your house. These are the wines you get to choose from. And we just got to taste all these different vintages and all these different varieties and all these different styles of wines from them. So I was being able to teach my palate. Yeah. I remember it was pretty interesting, though. One of the nights we were hanging out with, us interns and all the full-timers, and we opened up a bottle of wine, and we're all tasting it, and we're drinking it, and we're like, this doesn't taste right. And then one of the full-time guys goes, this is water wine. So it was like a case of display wine had gotten in there where it was just colored like it, and we're like, what is this? We're like, this ain't wine. So we thought that was really funny. But it's a lot of hard work.
Do they call that non-alcoholic wine now?
Nice.
It was like it was really cool, but it was also, we lived on the property, so there would be days we're working until 1 a.m. There were days where
sleep for a few hours and then start again.
Sleep for a few hours, start again. There was a day where we like processed until 11 p.m. They said, go home, have some dinner at 11 p.m., come back at 1. We got to empty out the press, put it into the tank, do everything, and then we'll see you tomorrow at 7. And we're like, this is what we're made for.
What was the average age of people that you were working with?
One of my coworkers, it was her very first vintage. Her name is Claire. She's from the UK. She's this awesome artist, like media artist, like uses she like steel and like metals and stuff. And this was her very first harvest, and she was 55.
Wow.
And she talked about the ageism in applications for being able to do a harvest, and how she would get a step in the door, and then people would be like, will you be strong enough? Like, will you be able to do these things? And she was so thankful.
Can we exploit the hell out of your labor for 3 months?
Yes. Like, can we exploit your labor? And she was so thankful to be able to like find a place that actually believed in her. Yeah. And it was so cool to be able to like work with all these different people of all these different ages, of all these different like skill levels. It was so cool.
Yeah, because I just imagine that it's all young people that they know they can work 20 out of 24 hours.
And she ran circles around me. Claire's so bad. She's a baddie. Yeah.
I like it.
Love
Sam,
you,
for you, responsible hedonist, their tagline is drink wine, be good, do good. And very cool logo.
I don't associate any of that with hedonism.
It's responsible hedonism.
You drink wine first. You drink wine first, and then you go to take your kids to the food bank like you did yesterday.
And Justin, my wife, who has worked in DEI for the last 40
Wait, what's
years,
DEI for those normal
diversity,
people?
equality, and inclusion.
Thank you.
Equity.
Equity. Okay, same thing, isn't it? No, I guess not.
It could be.
Yeah. Anyway, point is, she wanted to know how you help to get more women of color and women in general into the wine industry.
Absolutely. So I think it was really interesting in 2020 when all the murders were happening, when George Floyd was murdered, when Breonna Taylor was murdered, when Ahmaud Arbery was murdered. I felt really alone living in San Luis Obispo. Yeah. And I was really lucky in that a few months before then, I was working at an event down in Santa Barbara County, and I was pouring for Lumen at this all-women's wine event in Santa Barbara. It's like one of the biggest. Santa Barbara, like percentage-wise, has like one of the largest percentage like woman head winemakers in that region. Super cool. And my good friend Simone Mitchelson, who I mentioned earlier, she's, at that point I didn't know her. And she came up to me at the tasting and was like, oh my God, who are you? And I was like, oh my God, who are you? It was so nice to meet you. We work in this area together. Like, hey. And then George Floyd was murdered, and we actually hadn't really talked. Like, we had chatted a little bit through Instagram at that point, and she messaged me and she was like, hey, I feel super alone. And I was like, I feel really alone too. It would be really great to be able to get together and just chat and be. And we got tacos down in Pismo Beach at this awesome place called Poppy's Tacos. And we took them over to the beach, and sand went everywhere. And we ate crunchy, sandy tacos and talked about being Black women in the wine industry and how like suffocating it was a lot of the times. And as a result, we ended up writing this like letter to the industry, just sort of talking about our woes and about our sadnesses, but also about like a call to action and ways in which we can be active responders within everything that was happening. And I ended up with her, we ended up raising money for this really cool organization called Race Matters Slow, where it's like BIPOC individuals within San Luis Obispo County, and we raised money for them to be able to host different events throughout the year to be able to build community. And we saw this like wave of support for us, and we felt really, really happy to be able to make a difference. And as a result of that, we started to think about like bigger picture, like my experiences at Cal Poly. There was another student at that time, one of my really good friends who was a Black man in the wine viticulture program there, and he was talking about like the accessibility to money and to grants and to funding for scholarships. And me and my friend Simone, we ended up getting a scholarship program started for Cal Poly.
Oh, excellent!
So we basically started this 4-year wine and viticulture, like College of Agriculture scholarship for BIPOC individuals to be able to study. And this is now, we started that in 2020. What is it, 24? This is our 4th year within.
Awesome.
Will you shout it out a little bit?
Yeah.
Like if people are listening and they want to apply or they know somebody who should apply?
So if you'd like to apply for the scholarship, you can go onto the Cal Poly website into their scholarships list, and then you can also go directly to the Cal Poly Wine and Viticulture page, and then there's going to be a specific section for grants and for funding and for scholarships. And then if you cannot find the information, just email me or just direct message me. You can email me at justin@ward4wines.com, and I would love to send you any information that you need.
So what part of DC is Ward 4?
Oh, so Ward 4, so I grew up in Northwest DC. Okay. So over off of like Military and Connecticut. I grew up basically right outside of Rock Creek Park. Okay. So I went to Lafayette Elementary School. I went to what was formerly Woodrow Wilson, which is now Jackson Reed, which is where my little brother is going. And then I went to St. John's College High School, which was super cool. I actually lived right across the street from there.
Cool. Okay.
My mom and dad, my dad has lived in that house that we live in since he was a little boy. So I'm 4th generation DC native. So Ward 4 wines, 4 styles of wines, 4 family members. Growing up in the 4th ward, I'm a 4th generation DC native. And then the little cherry on top is my mom's maiden name is Ward. Oh. So Ward 4 wine, it really all encompasses.
And you have some good business out there, don't you?
I have
DC rocks.
I have really good friends from my time in the unaffiliated minor leagues of the political spectrum, working in Nevada, and some of those folks went on to. Actually, she's now a presidential employee in the Department of Interior, and so through them, I was friends with them in politics. Her husband was getting into wine. Donald, he's been on our show before. And we never really had made the connection that I was from a wine family, and then he was, starting to become a somm and all these things. And as that sort of, as we all kind of grew up and became who we are, they opened up a door to DC for us. We have tons of customers in DC, tons of club members. I've done a bunch of events there. Great wine city.
Yes. Also, it's like the Wild Wild West.
Right, because you can kind of do whatever you. There's no stupid state laws to deal with.
It's not a state. Yeah. Taxation without representation.
So how does that help you?
You can ship direct.
It's basically, most times you have to go through a wholesaler because DC is not a state. You can have your direct relationship with your wine shop, with your retailer, with your restaurant, and then of course you go through your own, shipping compliance and stuff like that. You still gotta have your compliance, right. Be compliant, but you don't have to go through all as many tiers as you would have to. Because as a small producer, we're all small producers, but micro. I'm not making enough wine at this point to be able to actually work with the wholesaler. I'm building and I'm growing, but it's to be able to to be able to give like that discount and that like that, you know, that loss of profit, I need to make more wine. So that is part of my eventual growth.
Well, you had to grow into like a distributorship in Atlanta, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's all the economic game of the wine business of, you know, making enough to sell it at a price that they can buy it and then sell it to, you know, retailers and restaurants so
they can sell
so
it.
they can sell it at a
And
price
they can
that's
price it.
you know, everybody can make some money and the wines be fairly priced. I mean, it is you know, the one of the great puzzles of the wine business to like make those relationships and then also make them financially successful. You know, you can get into a relationship with a distributor, especially in more complicated places like franchise states where they basically own your brand in that state.
And you can't quit them.
And you can't quit them. And then, you know, they only take one thing or they don't want to pay, you know, it's especially for small producers. And, you know, 16600 started small, maybe not even quite as small as you did. It's treacherous. I mean, you know, we had a distributor in New York go out of business and you know, file for bankruptcy, and you get a letter from, you know, a bankruptcy attorney telling you how far down the line of creditors you are, and you're like, that's $10,000 I'm never gonna see. You know, it's just like you kind of just know. So it's a scary thing. That's why, you know, DTC, and that's why we devoted 8 hours to the DTC podcast from the DTC the symposium, because for small producers it's not the best way, it's the way. Yeah, it's the only way.
Yes.
Hey, Justin.
Or you ship to some friends who have wine shops and restaurants in DC, where all you got to do is fill out a form on some DC. It's the tab or the TARB or
I don't know what it is,
some
but it's
acronym.
thick.
Where you got to pay.
Yes.
You know, it's not like DC doesn't still collect their.
Oh, they do.
Everybody gets their pound of flesh. It's just a little easier in DC than other places.
Yes.
Hey, can you talk a little bit about the winemaking part and your ideas about yeast?
Well, and then can I eventually get my? I want to find out how you ended up in Sonoma, but I don't think we've even gotten there yet.
Sorry, Brian. Yes, you're right. Maybe you should cover that.
I think
first.
we were in New Zealand.
Welcome to part 3 of Justin from Word 4 Wines.
Hey, y'all. Also, I forgot to mention my other 2 women's organizations that I am obsessed with. I mentioned them a little bit, but Live Collective, fantastic. You can find them on Instagram. And then as well as the Batonage Forum. And Batonage Forum is also a big reason to why I moved and transitioned from San Luis Obispo County up here to the Sonoma region. So basically it was 2020 and I had finished my my most recent harvest with Lumen Wines. And at that point I had done majority wine hospitality, like a lot of wine hospitality, and I had done a lot of like the winemaking, a lot of the cellar side of things, and I had no background in wine chemistry. And I basically, because Cal Poly, when they split us up into wine business, enology, and viticulture, the main reason I'm like, I didn't want to be in the dirt, but I also didn't want to take organic chemistry. I wanted to be able to talk about wine, and I wanted to be able to, you know how people are like, you're either math and science or arts and history. My brain has always been very much so arts and history. I have so much love for like arts and history and like, you know, the theater and all of it. And math and science, Heike, always has scared me and made me stressed out. And I feel like, you know, subconsciously I was always just sort of putting it to the side and not wanting to have to learn about the lab analysis side of things. But I realized
they have people for that.
They have people for that.
Right.
But
There's
I
machines
realized
and
there's
computer
machines
programs.
and a lot of money that goes into it.
Yeah.
And,
I gotta go.
right? You don't have to go, do you?
I'm just getting stressed out.
I
Just thinking
know.
about
wine chemistry.
Exactly. And I basically was like, Lumen is fantastic, but we're so small that there's not enough wine chemistry for me to be able to like really understand to the level that I want to know. So I basically transitioned from working at like a 2,000 case production facility to moving up to the Napa Valley and working at Heights Cellars, which makes
nice.
iconic Cabernet Sauvignon. Like, you know, they've been there since what, the 60s? Something like that. And they make these beautiful, like low alcohol, low pH, just like fresh, vibrant Cabernet Sauvignons. And I was like, I want to know about the chemistry behind this. And I want to learn about the chemistry behind this and also about the logistics of running a much larger production facility. Like,
Yeah,
I think they
what
do.
is their
It's
production?
probably about 80,000 cases,
Yeah,
I'd say.
yeah.
And then when I started there in 2021, we also started the Brendel label as well. So we were not only working with Heights fruit, but Heights wines. We also had a brand new lineup of SKUs for Brendel. So it was my first time doing a specific like lab job. So I basically was the production assistant, and I got to work up in this state of the heart like laboratory where I was learning about sulfurs, and I was learning about VA, and I was learning about Brettanomyces, and I was learning about like the logistics behind it, and planning 3-4 months in the future, and making sure blending trials are going all right, and understanding the importance of quality control. More, not only quality control throughout the year, but quality control at bottling. Like, are all of those, this is a making sure all the bottle fills are right, making sure the corks are pressurized.
a little bit of a high fill,
It
if
is
you
a high
ask me.
fill. This is one of my sample bottles. I have bottles that I take. Yes.
It got pulled off the line.
It got pulled off the line.
Quality
And then
control.
those are the ones, that I get to give to friends and family, or I'll pour them at wine events.
And why wouldn't you prefer?
You don't have to explain it. I'm just giving you a hard
I
time.
love it.
Why wouldn't you prefer a high fill?
I know.
Less oxygen,
gets
less
warm.
oxygen, and more wine.
But if it gets warm, then it'll.
Yeah, when
They'll
the
push it out?
temperature changes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like I learned
But
about.
and also there's like legal reasons. You are not allowed, like the bottle holds more than 750 milliliters, but you have to be within a certain range of around 750. So one of the things you do during QC on the bottling line is every once in a while you'll grab a bottle and dump it into this giant, terrifying glass cylinder that tells you exactly to like
25.36.
to the what's ever less than a milliliter of how close you are to 750.
Huh.
And then the temperature of it, because the temperature again
Yes.
is part of the volume.
So when
the
it's
temperature is-
colder,
Because if you bottle it at
greater
different temperatures,
if
mass.
the
it'll
volume
be different.
So it expands and contracts. the
exactly. So yeah, if it's if it's too cold, you're gonna want more headspace, and you're gonna want that volume to be slightly lower.
I gotcha.
And if it's warm,
I never
you
knew
want-
about these things.
yeah.
Oh.
You really do have to go.
Well,
Wine chemistry scared him out of the room. He's like,
and don't worry.
visit Dane Cellars, where we're chemistry free. It's
Also, congrats
2012.
on your new tasting room. It looks so cool.
Yeah, is that what it's like? Now you're a big celebrity, you just bounce on us? You're like, I got shit to do now?
Check out the article on Press Democrat.
Oh, not only that.
All right,
Took his
fine.
microphone away
in
and then
the
asked him questions.
All right.
Kenwood Press.
Must be
You got the Kenwood Press. Forget the Press Democrat.
I know.
Yeah.
Big old Instagram splash.
Bang,
the
bang.
Kenwood News.
yeah.
You know,
Tell
most,
Larry King we said, hey.
Larry King still
Joe
alive?
Rogan.
I don't know.
Most everyone around has seen the giant wine barrel shaped building across from Jack London Village in Glen Ellen. In the past, it's been many incarnations of a tasting room, and now it is again.
Used to be a massage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Stop.
Well,
Maybe.
I had never heard that. You're making that
I
up.
swear to God, it used to be. It was like a little massage studio in that little round room, and it's not a wine barrel shaped building. It is
A tank.
a motherfucking wine barrel.
Yes.
It is
Right.
actually
Yes.
a tank.
Yes.
It was not. They didn't build that to make it look like it. They took something that was and made it into a building.
John, it would drive you nuts because
Yes.
you can't hang pictures on the wall.
It's fucking impossible. There's no flat
Yes,
surface.
tank, not barrel. A 100-year-old fermentation tank, originally built by Joshua Chauvet. Oh,
Yeah.
the big Chauvet name out there.
Yeah, that's a name.
Structure screams out to be a tasting room by design, and I found myself wondering about fictitious alternate uses for such a unique structure, like a massage parlor.
A massage parlor.
Perhaps tear the roof off, fill it with water, creating a petticoat junction-style swimming hole.
That would be kind of dope, actually.
Anyway,
Bart, sorry.
at that
We're gonna
point,
fill your tasting room with water and go swimming.
the tank is now Dane Cellars winemaker proprietor Bart Hansen agrees. He says it's the perfect place for a wine tasting, and so he concentrates on vineyards here in Sonoma Valley. He explains, "I do
And
not."
he doesn't need any
Don't
press.
grade the
He's,
grapes,
he's
I'm
gotten more
sourcing
press
fruit.
over the last 2 weeks.
Sauvignon Blanc from Beltane,
love to
Zin
see
from
it.
Abbott's Passage. Isn't that Phil farmed over at Abbott's Passage?
I don't know if yet. I know we've been probably.
Well, the ones across the
probably
street.
breaking news. Well,
I know Abbott's Passage is on the right.
Talking about
of
Rancho.
Madrone.
no, yeah. I mean, Jeff and my dad have had several very intense conversations. I'm probably breaking news here that I maybe shouldn't. And since the whole Bunchu empire.
Say the word, Sam.
NT Swift,
went
baby.
regenerative organic. I know we're going to do some vineyard monitoring and consulting. I don't know exactly the extent of
Excellent.
of the agreement, but we're definitely enterprise helping out with the bunches, and that's
It's a great thing.
That's
It's a big move.
we've been in the valley
Big move.
only like 17 generations less than them or something. So
Yeah,
we're getting there.
What's the
No, it's not quite
date
that.
on their place? 1854?
1857.
Okay.
1858. Buena Vista is 57. Bartholomew Park is 58, which is kind of like
Well, Bartholomew Park,
right?
and it's
And-
the same thing.
right. That's what I mean.
So Bart Hansen, Dane Sellers at the tank.
Yeah.
You can go get tanked.
Get tanked with Bart.
Nice.
That's
Don't
take-
spread that.
Oh my gosh.
no,
I need to be
no,
on a
no.
shirt.
But
I-
Sam mentioned
right
it. I
there.
thought it was
so cool.
I got tanked with Bart Hansen.
Right? I'd buy that shirt. My mom would rock that
Shirt's
shirt.
cool. Wait, what did you say?
Dirt was pretty cool.
dirt is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I got tanked with
Bart
Bart.
Hansen. That's been
Perfect. Anyway,
All right, bye, Bar.
congratulations.
We're at Heights. We're making some Martha Vineyards
Oh,
cap.
yes. So I was at Heights. I was making my
and shout out Carlton McCoy.
Yes.
you
And
know,
Brittany Sherwood.
And is that
That's the winemaker.
I was about to ask. I don't know. I know
She
Megan
is
and the other-
amazing. So Brittany Sherwood is the winemaker for Heights Cellar. She's incredible. She's worked at that winery for a very long time. I don't remember how long, but she basically started off as an intern there, and then has worked her way up to the winemaker, director of winemaking. She's a bad ass. And then we love Megan Zobeck, and she is the winemaker for Burgess. She has her own wine label in Zobeck.
Zobeck.
She's got amazing wines, Gamay and Cabernet Sauvignon.
And
I
is just
think
an
she
awesome person in
Just
general.
an awesome person. I love what they've done with LWE, Lawrence Wine Estates. They have so many different styles of wines and so many different labels. And I love that they're providing this elevated experience, but they're still having accessibility within their brands like Brendel, while still creating this elevation with wine brands like Stony Hill and Heights. But I realized
historic, the new,
yes,
it's
it's a
so well done.
melding of the minds.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Actually, at Stony Hill, another friend of the podcast is Reed Graham Griggs is the winemaker up there now.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I haven't met Reed.
He's awesome.
He started there right after I transitioned. So I transitioned after the 2022 vintage because I wanted to be closer to where I was making my wine. So 2022, I was hauling butt from, Napa, working at Heights, over to Sonoma to make my wine, down to Paso Robles to pick up my Viognier.
Yeah.
And I just was reevaluating what I needed to do to be able to make Ward 4 the best it could be. And I realized I was probably having my day job be much closer to where I was making wine. So for 2023's vintage, I transitioned to this team at Scribe, and I got to help them transition to their new production facility over off of 8th Street East.
Shout out to other friends of the podcast.
Yes.
We love Gustavo, we love Corinne.
There you go.
Yeah.
We love them. And Uli, Vaivem. We love them all.
Brian, did she ever say how she actually got to Sonoma?
No, I think we're so close, John.
so close.
We're so close.
I need her to
I mean-
Oh, it was
tie
because I
that
wanted to do lab analysis.
because I want to get into the wines that you're making,
Yes.
even
Yeah.
though they are sold out, which is awesome.
Petites are there's 1.5 cases left, unless you join the wine club, and then you get that extra little access, which is nice. I have, at this point, 8 spots left in my club. I'll tell you more about that. But yeah, I transitioned for 2023 to help the cellar at Scribe.
Yeah.
And I also got to do a more so viticulture based experience because for me, I want to get that all encompassing, and I had always done, production, and then I transitioned into lab, and then I was like, I want to do production and lab, and then also be able to make my wines a 2-minute drive from where I'm making my wine.
Dream.
Yeah. I'm a fish.
So
I've
do punch downs on your lunch break, and
exactly.
Go home, feed the cat.
Yes, or the rats. I have 2 pet rats. They're amazing.
Oh, that
they're
was
named
a
after
weird
grapes.
turn of events.
They're super sweet.
How do the cats get along with the rats?
Oh my God, there are no cats in my house. I don't
there are
have
no
rats.
cats in America.
There are no rats in America. Their names are Pinot Gris because she's got gray little spots. Gris.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Dolcetto, and we call her Dolce for short because she's a little sweet one.
What do they eat?
Everything. They have rat kibble, like mouse kibble, like rabbit food. Shit, they eat all the
Kibble.
things.
Can I have a bag of
So
rat
like if you just
kibble?
have leftovers, if you're like
Oh my
cutting
gosh,
up veggies
they
or whatever, you
love
just throw it in.
French fries. I mean, I'm not giving them a French fry every day.
Well, they
rat
sure did
people,
in
rat
Chicago.
people. I'm very good rat mom. Okay.
Okay.
We're
I
gonna
feed
get
them
letters from the rat lovers of America.
I feed them apples. They love bananas. They're obsessed with sweet potatoes. They can eat green
me
cabbage,
too.
but not purple cabbage. It's pretty interesting. I have a Google Home at home, and every day I'm like, "Hey Google, can rats eat?" Okay.
Right.
Based on what happens in my garden, they love squash and melon.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
You said in my garden.
It's not, they're not pets in the garden.
And are they like free range? Are they running around your house?
No. They have a cage. They have a cage.
Okay.
I think it's called like Critters Mansion or something like that. It's awesome.
Oh, so it's a nice house.
It's a nice little
for a
house.
rat.
McMansion.
Right.
Yes.
The rat McMansion.
It's totally enclosed. And then like when we're home, we'll put them on our shoulders.
Armstrong's
the
estate over here.
Get a little bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
But yeah, present day, I'm still working with Scribe, but I've transitioned from working in the cellar into hospitality because I get to have a 4-day work week, and I love selling wine. Like
Can you get us into Scribe to do a tasting?
I would love to.
Why do you never ask me?
Come on now. Come and hang out with me, Angeline. We're gonna have them in, and it's gonna be great.
Okay. I know Jasmine's a member, and so she goes every once in a while to pick up her wines. But I have this memory of like 15 years ago when Sandra Bernstein, owner of The Girl and the Fig, had friends coming to town. She said, I want to take them to Scribe. Will you reach out to them? I reached out to them, and I said, hey, but granted, it was like a 2-day away thing.
Oh.
I said, hey, Sandra, who owns The Girl and the Fig, would like to come do a tasting. They said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any space. And I said, if Sandra can't get in the gate, I don't know what my chances are.
You give me a week, okay? Give me a week's
Okay.
notice. I'll see what I can do.
I've never been there.
It is
You're on notice.
beautiful.
Okay.
You're on notice.
Okay. Give me that date. Thursdays
Now,
to Sundays.
are we talking out on the highway or are we talking 8th Street facility?
on what is it, Napa Road?
Yeah.
That beautiful
Yeah.
hacienda. So we have
Out
two
by
experiences.
the old
So we have our
Nick-
hacienda
Nichols
experience,
Turkey
which is
Ranch?
a little bit
Before
more
that,
elevated. It's light bites and then 4 different wines.
Yeah.
The chefs are incredible. And then we also have up on the top of the hill, up at the knoll, we have our knoll experience, which is more so like wines by the bottle and picnic baskets. And it is so dreamy. It's super kids friendly. We
It's
have
like the
dogs.
swing. Everybody sees the swing on Instagram. No swing.
I'm like, I don't know when they had a swing, but there's not a swing anymore. Who knows?
I feel like
Liability?
some
Insurance.
lawyer got a hold of the swing.
They said, let's
saw
cut
the
the
swing
swing
on Instagram. Like,
But I know
nah,
nothing.
no more swing.
But it's pretty nice because I now have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. So I'm really excited about this upcoming harvest because it's like, no, I won't be working on other people's wines, but it gives me the opportunity to actually like go full on my stuff. And that was a big thing that my partner Haven, he's super supportive and he helps me with a lot of stuff. But he's like, you got to be able to put yourself number one, and it would be awesome if you could do your hospitality and also be able to make your wines and actually be there like the whole day. And I'm like, you know what? I agree. So now I get to like actually be able to like haul my fruit and like be there fully all day long, Monday through Wednesday. And then, those other days, like you said, I can still do my lunch breaks.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Because where are you living? Are you?
So I live in Napa. I
Okay.
live in downtown. It's a 20-minute drive to work.
Okay. And why
22-minute
Napa?
drive.
Just curious.
For the gondola. Haven's typically on call a lot more often than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know it's a 20-minute drive. That's easy. And it's great to be in downtown Napa.
Yeah.
There's a movie theater. I went and saw 3 movies yesterday. $6 movie
In a
Tuesdays
row?
In a row.
So what'd you see?
I went to see The First Omen, which was terrible. And then I went to see Shrek 2 because it's the 20th anniversary.
Whoa.
Y'all, that movie aged like fine.
Is that the one with
wine.
Antonio Banderas as the cat?
Yes.
Oh,
Puss in Boots.
That's fantastic.
Puss in Donkey, y'all. Dun, dun,
And he has the
dun,
bag of catnip.
Yes.
And he gets caught with the bag of catnip. And he goes, "That's not mine."
It's hilarious. And we went to like a 6:15 showing, so it was full of kids and their parents, and it was just like the vibes. It was just vibing.
Right. Parents who probably saw it as kids, not taking their kids to see it.
And they're like,
That's not mine.
And the third?
My favorite, the second one. My favorite part was was Gingy. And then the third movie that I saw was Monkey Man. And that's by Neve Patel and produced by Jordan Peele. So me and my friends went to see it, and we were like, "Oh, Jordan Peele produced it. It's got to be scary." It was not scary. It was fabulous. It was fabulous, but it's much more so like action. It's like
Is this a new
it's
movie?
new movie just came out. It's giving, what is it? Keanu Reeves in that movie with the dog, John Wick.
Oh, John
It's
Wick.
giving John Wick, but about a mom. So much more heartbreaking. And the music is incredible.
Okay, so you're living in Napa, working at Scribe, making your wines at Obsidian.
Yes.
What was your first wine that you made?
Ooh.
And how did you get the fruit?
So my first wine that I made
For yourself.
For myself for
Yeah.
Ward 4.
Yeah.
The first wine that I made for myself for Ward 4 was the Muscat.
Oh,
because that was the
right
first
up
one
your
that
alley,
came in.
Brian.
So 2022 I made 5 wines, all half-ton fermentations.
All half-ton fermentation. And
Everyone's-
for people out there that aren't in the wine
Casey
industry,
Grable really likes her because that's such a fucking pain in the ass in the
love
I
wine.
know,
Crazy.
right?
I
Because a
love
half a
it.
ton makes like 25 cases, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you're making 5
Plus some kegs.
25 case wine lots.
Plus like 2 or 3 kegs.
And
maybe.
you said no malolactic?
No,
the
so I didn't push
Muscat?
my wines through I did not push my whites through malolactic fermentation just because I wanted to retain that freshness. My reds I pushed fully through ML. I am a minimal intervention winemaker, so I always say like I'm low intervention as much as possible. If anything ever weird were to happen in the cellar, I am not afraid to intervene. I am putting way too much money into this to not make a sustainable and great tasting wine. Yeah. I luckily have not had anything weird or terrible happen to me yet.
Well, and you're not putting anything weird or unnatural
Exactly.
into the wine.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So I start all my fermentations via pied de couve. So I make these little miniature fermentations.
What's that word?
Pied de couve. I said pied de couve. Pied de couve. It's French, and it's basically a miniature fermentation that you start off before you bring in your main batch of grapes into the cellar. You'll typically I start mine about 2 weeks beforehand. I go into the vineyard. I basically go and do a crush sample. I get 2 5-gallon buckets. I take those buckets home. I put on Lord of the Rings. I de-stem them, and I create a little miniature fermentation. Over the course of those 2 weeks,
Oh, you're de-stemming your pet.
I de-stem my pied
That's
de couve.
fucking.
Intense.
Yeah.
2 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah.
Like I said, I watched Lord of the Rings
You
extended
probably
edition.
make it pretty far through.
Yeah, pretty damn far through. And I basically make that little pied de couve. I watch it. I monitor it. I see, how it's doing. And then 1 week later, I go and I get another sample, and I actually do the same thing, and I add it on top of that first pied de couve. So I have a larger pied de couve.
Right.
I look at that over the course of the next few weeks, next week. And I'm, the fermentation has started. Is the fermentation smelling weird? Is the fermentation getting really warm? So I'm like, okay, 4th day, the grapes are starting to get really warm. I know once my larger batch comes in, day 4, I'm going to dry ice the crap out of it just to make sure that it's, staying nice and cool. And then on day 4 of my actual tonnage coming in, I inoculate, quote unquote, with my pied de couve. I don't touch it for the rest of that day. And then I come back the next day and it's got a cap, which is pretty damn cool. And then, I punch it down and I do my fermentation.
How many people do this?
A lot of people. A good bit of people.
Huh.
Megan Zobek was one of my big inspirations for doing it. When I started at Heights, she was doing pied de couves for Burgess. And I had seen people talk about it, and I thought that was awesome because I started there in 2021. 2022, I went and did my harvest in South Africa, over in Elgin, over at Almenkirk, and we had gone halfway into harvest. They had all these different sections of Syrah on the vineyard, and I was like, "Hey, would y'all be interested in doing a Pied de Cuve?" Yeah. And I got them to do a Pied de Cuve, so it's pretty cool. I was like, I get to test out the Pied de Cuve method on somebody else's grapes before I get to test them out on mine.
Smart.
And I was like, "Yeah!" And of course, it was a larger scale winery, so they were going to be like, if it's not good, we're not dumping that in. It was great. Right. It was fresh. It was beautiful. Their fermentation went beautifully, so it was really cool to see them get to see something new. And then I came back, because their harvest is opposite. So I did the South African harvest in 22, and then I went and did my own harvest in 2022, and that was Ward 4's first vintage. So my first vintage, I did 5 half-ton lots.
So sorry.
Oh, no.
I know you're on a roll. So how did you get the fruit, the connections
Community
for what
connections.
fruit you wanted to do?
So for my Muscat, I reached out to Martha Stuman because she has. It's pretty cool. She's got the same birthday as me. We're both March 20th. Yeah. My really good friend Aman works for her as their national sales manager, and she was talking to me about Martha.
Aman's the millennial Som on Instagram, or is that
no?
Emancipated. There we go.
We love Aman.
You just know people by the Instagram handle.
She's great. We love you, Aman. And basically, Martha makes such beautiful wines, as we all know. And I reached out and was like, "Hey, Martha, I don't know if you have any availability for fruit this year, but I'd love to be able to piggyback because nobody's going to sell me a half ton of fruit." Yeah. And Martha was like, "Of course, you're more than welcome to, to add yourself onto my pick. These are all the other people that are also coming and picking. Come and bring your bin, and you're going to get this fruit."
Nice.
And
Where was the vineyard?
So my Muscat is coming from Contra Costa. It's managed by the Ergelet brothers. Love them. And it's called Cecchini Vineyards. Mm-hmm. Cecchini, and it's over in the Knightston area, Knightston Oakley area. Okay. And then my other white that I made in 2022 was a Viognier. I made a Viognier from down in Paso Robles. Another half ton.
And sorry,
no.
Why get the Viognier from Paso?
Because Paso's got my original heart.
Okay.
I moved up to this area. Oh, also, there's more petite.
It's delicious, by the way.
Thank
you. You don't get the oak. You get it sort of. It's sort of de-rusticized, if that's a word I just made up. Yeah. The petite Syrah tannin. Hashtag de-rusticized. De-rusticized. But it's not oaky. Yeah. Just sort of kind of frames some really nice fruit and acid. Yeah.
This is the wine for my dad. It's bigger, it's bolder than what I'm typically drinking, but it's his style. While still my style. You can
take this to a business meeting at a DC steakhouse and everybody would be happy. Yeah, totally.
Oh, and I would slightly chill this and serve it on a day like today. Just sitting out here by the
absolutely.
I do believe that those are the instructions on your website.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Throw it in for half an hour.
Exactly.
With the acidity on this, it's
very cool.
Fucking delicious.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Okay,
sorry.
I knew I had to work with Paso.
So the Viognier, yep.
Paso is I would not be who I am without San Luis Obispo, without Cal Poly, without all the places that I worked in Paso, without all the places I worked in San Luis, without all the places I worked in Santa Barbara. So I'm I have to work with fruit down there.
So you go in the middle of the night.
I go in the middle of the night. Oh, you're not
I'm
lying.
how do you get a half ton of Viognier out of Paso?
So, my very first pick for my Muscat was the same day as my Viognier was picked. Okay. It was a Wednesday.
Welcome to
winemaking.
Fill up the tank.
We love it.
Made by coffee.
Made by coffee. I don't drink coffee. I'm decaffeinated. I don't drink any caffeine.
Actually, you probably have plenty of natural caffeine.
You're you got a lot of natural energy.
Yeah, we don't want to see you on coffee.
No. It's weird. I actually end up getting migraines. It's my body starts to shut down. But basically, both of my fruit got picked on Wednesday. I sourced my Viognier from down in Paso Robles at this incredible vineyard called Alta Colina Wines.
Yeah.
Alta Colina Vineyard's amazing.
Up there on top of the hill.
Up there on the top.
What about the Marsan?
Roussan, Viognier. I fell in love with Alta Colina. It was like probably one of the very first vineyards that I fell in love with. And when I was still living in Paso, my mom and my aunt came and visited me, and we went to Alta Colina. And it was my mom's first like really big like vineyard tour, like in the car, winemaker owners taking you around, and we had all these different wines, and she had never really had Viognier. And she was like, this wine is delicious.
Yeah, it is.
And we're up at the top of this hill, like almost 2,200 feet in elevation. And I'm over here with my mom and with Bob Tillman, who was just the sweetest guy ever. I love Big Bob. And
Big
I'm
Bob.
like, and I'm talking to my mom, and I'm like, I'm going to make this wine for you one day. And this was in 2018. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make this wine for you one day. And I basically was like, all right, what am I making? I'm making Viognier. So although Muscat was the first wine to hit the floor in the cellar, Viognier was was the wine that started it all. And yeah, my friend Molly is the winemaker there at Alta Colina. She also has her own brand called Little Souls Wines, and she does great Pinot, and she does really beautiful rosé. And I was like, Molly, I'm at work. It's Wednesday. I would love it if you were to bring that fruit into the cellar, give it a nice, slight little bit of sulfuring. I believe in the use of sulfur. Yeah. I don't use a shit ton of sulfur, but I use enough sulfur to keep my stuff fresh. Yeah. And I had her bring it into the sulfur, into the winery, do a little sulfur add, and then she dry iced it. She wrapped it up for me, and it waited there for me until I picked it up on Saturday. Huh. I intentionally did a skin contact wine. It sat on the skins for 3 days.
Oh, so did she crush it for you?
She stomped it. I had her stomp it with her feet a little bit, and then she sealed it up for me. It sat in the cellar, temperature controlled. I drove down after my work day at Heights on Friday. Got to Paso Robles at like 10 p.m. Woke up at 6 a.m. Picked up the fruit in Paso. Drove it back up on Saturday. Crushed it at noon. Cleaned up my mess, and then was back at work at Heights for my Sunday work day.
Wow.
So that was that was a slamming
man. Start
into my very first vintage. And then I pressed it that day on Saturday. I wanted a little bit of skin contact, but I didn't want a lot. My Muscat's out on the skins for 9 days, or 7 days for 22, 9 days for 23. And then my Viogniers out on the skins for just 3 days. And then pressed really, really lightly.
And why? And what is it? Texture that you're looking for in the wines?
Yes, yeah. I want texture in my white wines. I want texture. I want mouthfeel. I pick a little bit earlier than most people, so I still have this I have this high acidity, so I want that texture to really balance it out. And then my reds, I definitely pick a little bit earlier than most producers. I like light, chillable, chuggable reds. Yeah. So my Barbera and my Mourvedre, I picked intentionally on the earlier side. I think for my Mourvedre, I picked with the rosé, with the rosé producers, and then Barbera, I picked myself. Barbera was interesting. 22, as y'all know, was a very big heat wave, so that was really interesting. Another little wrench in the.
Where was the Barbera?
Barbera was up in Mendocino, up in Ukiah.
Wow.
So it was pretty warm. Yeah. But then it rained at the end of the 2022 vintage.
Like a week after the big heat.
Yes.
Right.
So basically the big heat happened. I was looking at the weather, and it was like, hey, rain's expected on Monday. And I was like, oh, I need to go and pick this. And I went and did a sample, and I was like, this is a little bit lighter than I'd want, but I'm either going to pick earlier, have a lower alcohol, fresher wine, or I run the risk of picking later and mold happening, and mildew, and who knows what. So I made the executive decision and was like, I'm going to pick early. And it turned out beautifully. These are bright, fresh, but still elegant wines. And then my Petit Syrah is my big, bold wine that's inspired by my dad. So it's a little bit heavier, but it's still super fresh and pretty. Yeah.
And it's chillable and chuggable.
It is.
I like those terms.
And my motto is forever and always wines enjoy no fuss.
Does anyone carry the Barbera that I can get a bottle of that somewhere?
Bay Grape in Napa. Grape Napa still has 3 or 4 bottles left.
Okay. It's the one I really wanted to try, and you told me I don't have any more. And we talked before the show. You said you've got one case stashed.
It's hidden under 3 stacks of wine.
Yeah.
And glass, empty glass, 3 stacks of wine and empty glass. It's like a total Tetris. But yeah, if you want to purchase the Barbera, you should be able to purchase that Bay Grape Napa. I did a really, really fun like Fat Tuesday celebration at Bay Grape earlier this year, and I poured some of that there. So they should still have a few bottles.
So how does everybody get in touch with you? How do you want that to
Email
roll?
me. I love email. Please sign up for my email list. It was pretty interesting. Like, you know, I feel like I do a lot of my marketing through my mailing list. I do a lot of marketing through my Instagram, but Instagram does go down and it does stress me out every time. So lately I've really been trying to build up that email list because it's not all Instagram. As much sales as I do through there, you want to be able to have people's actual contacts because it can all disappear like that.
That's
Email, Instagram is for fun, email is for business.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. So I've been trying to up my email list. Please email me anytime. And then you can reach out to me on Instagram.
You got a website?
I have a website, www.fourwines.com.
so it's just
Ward4wines.com.
ward4wines.com. That's
But here's the thing: the only thing available right now is the Petite Sirah.
Exactly. Or the wine club.
And only for a minute.
Wait, okay, so talk about
there's
that.
8
So if
spots
you
left.
join the wine club,
Good thing we
then
only have 8 listeners. So
wait,
you
if
guys
I
just all
join the
sign
wine
up.
club, can I get a bottle of the Barbera and the Viognier?
You'll get a bottle
Wait,
of...
you don't just tell me. You don't have to.
You'll get a bottle of the 2024 Viognier. So, 2023, I was working on building. So, Viognier was one of my more expensive, purchases. So, 22, I made it. 23, I didn't make it.
Okay.
The reason that I ended up creating this founding members group is because I wanted to be able to gauge the sustainability of my brand and how to build as a brand.
Yeah.
So I basically created 20 slots for my 3-bottle club and 20 spots for my 6-bottle club. And as a result, since I now have 32 members, I feel secure enough and I've confirmed that I'm going to be making a full ton of Viognier this year.
Okay.
So I'm not only able to make Viognier, but I'm actually able to double my Viognier production. So that's really, really exciting. Like people are always like, does my membership matter? Does my purchase matter? It really does, especially for us small people.
Well, and you made the Viognier for your mama, so she got most of it anyway, right? Yeah, right.
And whenever I go home, I'm like, can we open it?
What's your mom's number?
Tracy.
Can I call her? Okay.
My next release is going to be my Muscat, and my Muscat's going to be releasing for my my Founders Club first. So that should be releasing in like late May.
Okay, so then are you basically going to stick to those 5 varietals?
I wouldn't say that at all. Those are some of my favorite varietals.
Yeah.
I love working with those grapes,
Yeah.
but I am always open to making new
You're
things. Haven, my partner, he's like, Justin, you made Pinot for like 7 years. When are you going to make Pinot?
Right.
And I'm like,
As soon as I can afford some fucking grapes,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, Haven, I would love to work with Pinot. Pinot's expensive. We might need to put a pause on that. It's another reason why I do like working with these like lesser discussed varieties because they are still accessible for me.
Yeah.
And it's being able to teach consumers about these grapes. Like one of my big reasons that I work with Viognier is because people like my mom didn't know what Viognier was.
Right.
My consumers all over the country, they'll get a bottle of Viognier. They'll go, damn, this is delicious. They'll be able to go into a wine shop and say, hey, I really like this grape called Viognier. Could you show me 4 different Viogniers all within this range of price points? Yeah. Then they get to buy all these different Viogniers. And, chat with them about their friends and then look super cool and be like, oh my gosh, I have this new grape that I love. Yeah. And then I get to boost other Viognier producers.
All right, so what do you want to make that you besides the Pinot? Like what?
variety.
Yeah, what excites you?
Malvasia Bianca. Or Malvasia Bianca.
Right.
That is the reason I make Muscat. So I tried to find a connection in Malvasia Bianca. I reached out.
There's not a lot of it
There's
out there.
not a lot of it. I reached out to the Ergolites. They were like, we have some, but we're using all of it. And the reason I want to work with Malvasia Bianca is because there's this incredible Italian producer down in Paso Robles called Clesi Wines, Clesi. And when I was still studying at Cal Poly, Adrienne Ferrara was one of my teachers at Cal Poly. Her and her husband, Chris, I believe, they started this brand called Clesi, and they worked with Malvasia. And it's so aromatic and so pretty. And it was definitely one of those like light bulb wines for me. And whenever I find that wine, like that grape, any producer, I love it. Like Burichino in Santa Cruz, incredible Malvasia or Malvasia, depending on who you're talking to. So if anyone knows, I would love to. But in the meantime, I'll make Muscat.
Yeah, Napa. It's an Italian couple called Arbe Garbi, Garbe, and they do a blend of the Ribolla Gialla and the Malvasia, and I'm sure Steve Mathiasen has got his fingerprints somewhere on somewhere over there because I don't know any in Sonoma County.
But I know some like backyard vineyards that got a couple vines.
Oh yeah,
but because he's
I think she's
because he's a crazy old Sicilian guy.
Hey, if Casey lets me do a small thing, just kidding, Casey.
Yeah.
Well, you can find some other grapes, make a blend. Start somewhere.
Right.
Well, Justin Ward, what have we not asked you?
Oh my gosh, I'm over here like, what haven't we talked about?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting about everything. Oh, the only thing that we really haven't talked about is, people talk about wine pairings, and I talk about wine pairings and about food, but I'm less so talking about food and wine and like media and wine. All of my wines pair with television shows and movies and music. So my Petite Sirah is the only wine that doesn't pair with movies and TV, and that's because my dad just doesn't watch movie or television. So I ended up making an Ode to Petite Sirah playlist, which just has like songs that both inspire me and make me think about Petite Sirah, but also songs that make my dad think about Petite Sirah. So we have like You Don't Mess Around with Jim by Jim Croce, and then you also have like Lady in Red, but then you also have like Duke Ellington's Mood Indigo and Blue. So it's just like
I don't know what I was thinking. It was a little. Duke Ellington's a DC person also, right? I think so. I think so.
I'm like, and sure then you also have things like free ride. So my dad is like, you got all of the different things.
Is that Foghat? Free ride?
Right.
Take it easy?
Yeah.
No, it's slow ride.
Slow ride. Right.
I'm
just thinking of the movie Dazed and Confused.
That might be why I put that in there.
Yeah. What do you think is the scariest Halloween movie?
Ooh.
Did you just say that the Omen 1 was not?
First Omen was terrible.
Yeah.
Anyone will agree with me on that. There was no plot. The jump scares were crap.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Did you like the classic Exorcist?
It's just interesting because like there was no plot up until the very end, and at the very end they're like, it's Damien, and it's like, okay, I guess you like tied it all together somehow, but it just didn't really work. Right.
Poltergeist scared the shit out of me.
Poltergeist is great. Mine would probably have to be like People Under the Stairs is really great.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds is scary.
Where
what is it? Day After Tomorrow.
Things come in. They're
Train
skating around the basement.
In my top 5.
Big
Train to
octopus
Busan
arms.
is incredible.
Never heard of that.
It's like zombies. It's basically this dad and his daughter on this train to Busan, and the very first opening scene you really see is the doors saying they're about to close, this person walking on, and then this zombie walking on right afterwards. The zombie biting a person, and then the ripple effect
affecting the whole train
of one side of the train to the very end.
I don't do
French
zombies.
movie?
No.
I don't do zombies.
Busan.
Yeah.
It's I forget what it is, but it's wherever Busan is. They're coming up with a new one, and it's like Train in New York, and I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna do.
Right.
This is not.
Is that
probably
the
gonna do as
Excella
well.
or is that the regional?
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, is it the trip from DC to New York?
What can go down in 3.5 hours
I will
as you
say
traipse
my
through Maryland?
favorite movie is Scream. And it's not super scary, but for me, I saw Scream that came out in the early 2000s.
Filmed in Sonoma. I think it was.
know that.
I'm pretty sure it was Scream 1 that they filmed at
in the downtown square
in the community center.
It's my fun fact.
It was
It's like my fun fact.
The
I tell
school
everyone.
was the community center down here on Spain Street, Napa Street.
I know you point over there like I want to know what you're
Like
talking
about.
Yeah,
because
Listener Sam's
anything
pointing.
past the girl in the figs, Brian has no knowledge of downtown Sonoma.
It's over there.
It's over there.
I know it's over there.
The
You
land
pass it
beyond
on the way to the
fig.
warehouse.
Okay.
The community center, that big brick building, columns.
Okay.
Scream is not that scary, but for me, I
It's
saw
fun, though.
it's super fun, and for me, it was
Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox,
Yeah, that's right.
Matthew Lillard, who I
Cox
think
was
is
it was
so
a big deal. She was at
handsome.
all the restaurants and
I'm
everything.
still
Yes.
the original Dracula. where he's pouring for Renfield.
Salem
and he
sauce
says,
is
"Don't
great.
you want some wine?" I don't drink wine.
I don't drink wine.
That's
I
a good
drink the
movie.
blood.
Blood. I saw Scream secretly. My mom was watching it downstairs, and we have one of those little staircases that you can't see a person because it sort of wraps. And I remember my mom watching Scream, the original one. I'm 8 years old. I'm watching it. My mom's like, "Justin, don't watch this. It's gonna scare you." And I watched it, and it scared the crap out of me. I slept in their room for like a week, and then it was 3 weeks before Halloween. I open up the front door on Halloween Day, and someone's wearing the Scream mask. I scream bloody murder, and my mom has to come out and ask the young guy to take off his mask. And that is where my love for horror began. Outside of World War
Childhood
I,
trauma.
childhood trauma.
Where all our loves begin.
Stay tuned with my Monstober list every year. 31 Days of Horror.
And how do people get that?
That's on my personal page.
Okay.
So that is
Do you want people to follow you personally?
You're more than welcome to follow me
Okay.
personally. On my personal page, I post a lot about horror and food and video games and board games. I'm a really big gamer. So follow me at jmedici320. I created this Instagram in high school during my AP Art History class. The Medici family.
You mean during class?
Yeah, during class. Thanks, Miss Moline. And I was like, "Oh, Medici, I'm a patron of the arts." And now here I am years later, and I'm a patron of the arts.
All right. And a tyrant? The Medicis were a little like...
They were a little tyrannical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Medicis
they were.
was... Yeah, all right.
Absolutely.
The Godfather.
But that's all. It's part of that old Italian
Okay, so
thing. You know?
And they're Northern Italian.
I
They're
know.
like...
I'm no, that's good because I'm gonna go buy one of those last bottles of Barbera right now because as soon as this podcast comes out, the other ones are gonna be sold. And then when will the next release of wines for you be?
So I'd say at last week of May, first week of June for mailing list, and then first week of June for everyone else.
Okay, cool.
All right, Sam, any shout outs? You have a big party coming up here on May 2nd.
Oh, that's right.
us
KSVY
fundraiser for
yeah.
our local community radio station, KSVY. And honestly, Ronnie Joe Grooms, program director,
Yeah, he's great.
put it all together. But it's in line with everything we do here. He's got a bunch of DJs coming through. There's a woman who it's like a 2-person act with somebody spinning records and then she sings over them. That's going to be super awesome. He has a whole lineup, only 75 tickets. So you go to the KSVY.
Not anymore.
Well, that's
That's
how many there was allowed to be. So I don't know how many are actually going to be. And it's all a fundraiser for the community radio station.
Yeah.
So that's an event coming up.
May
As
2nd,
this
5 to
episode
9.
drops, we'll all be packing our bags for Hospice Daron.
Which it looks like everything's pretty much at this point sold out.
Yeah, and we got some good podcasts lined up for that.
But
so we're
still
gonna
come.
record-
Hang out.
Come hang out with us. Even if you can get tickets or not.
There might be scalpers.
Scalping. Gonna get some StubHub Hospice Daron. Get the markups. What you do is you wait till the dinner starts and all the ticket prices drop right then. Just like
Or
over
if
the
someone
volume.
doesn't show up,
exactly.
say, "Hey, I got cash."
Someone cancels.
Right.
And then we're about to drop our Vinyl Sunday schedule for the summer. June 2nd here, June 23rd at the barn, and then back here August 4th, Stanley Mass Appreciation Day.
Hey, Stanley's got a new book out too.
New album. So it's an album.
It is?
It's a fun thing to say.
Oh, that's right.
It's
It's all kinds of
covers
people.
of songs from albums he did the covers of.
Yeah.
The cover of. So it's the Mouse That Rocked, and it's also a fundraiser for the Blue Rose Foundation, which I think focuses on like early childhood education. And what we're working on right now is to get somebody to put that on vinyl, so we can get some vinyl of that. So that's all in the works. And the Moon Mountain District,
Okay.
Reach for the Moon, June 1st.
Speaking of Moon Mountain, do we want to try and get Brene on the show to talk? I mean, this is public knowledge.
It's public knowledge she's not there anymore. I don't know if it's public knowledge where she's going yet. So as soon as we can, I think it makes sense to reach out to Brene.
We love you, Brene.
We love Brene. She's,
Congratulations.
I'm heartbroken that she won't be in the Moon Mountain District anymore.
Yeah.
It was really she's a powerhouse and
absolutely.
and really helps push what we're doing in Moon Mountain District. But we will
How's
carry
your
on.
new son King doing?
King is appropriately named, I think. That's all I know.
Oh.
So yeah, excited for what her future holds. But sad that she's, I drove up to Rapri yesterday, and every time I drive to Rapri,
Sorry.
It's
my fault that he had to go to repeat.
it ended up being really great.
Okay.
Sorry. And every time I drove to Rapri, I'd have the urge to take the right fork and go see what Brene was up to at Monte Rosa. So knowing that I can't do that anymore is it's a bummer. But I think she's got great things. I know that she's got great things in store. So she doesn't take action lightly. So I'm sure she's got something awesome cooked up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brian, anything for you?
I mean, everything Sam just said.
Go get tanked with Bart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dane
Right.
Sellers.
Yeah,
Also
if you
go to Big
haven't seen the
West.
newspaper or the television, Bart opened a tasting room. So, yeah, I would go check it out. It said that walk-ins were welcome during the week and then to make an appointment for the weekends, which I thought was kind of...
Maybe that.
I do believe
That
the quote is that it's either way he notes calling for or reserving an appointment online is always best.
Well, and it's still just the Bart show. I don't think he's got anybody working.
That's the thing. I would just reach out to him online if you happen to have his phone number and you want to call him. But
Doesn't he? I think he's got his phone number on his cork, doesn't he?
Nice.
oh,
That is
so.
707-529-5856. That's call now, 707-529-5856.
Text him
Dane
late
Sellers.
at night. Bart, want to taste tomorrow at 10 a.m.
First 100 callers get a free case, right?
now we didn't talk about this with you. What if people want to try some of your wines? Can they reach out
They
to
got to
you?
get on
and-
the gondola.
Yes. So the gondola is my
Okay.
main tasting experience.
That
and
is
then,
so weird.
Yes.
Okay, so
It really is. It's
it's super
weirdly
cool, but I'm
awesome.
like, that's the.
Or
If you want to
can
try your
taste with
wines,
me
you got to
at
come
events.
on a gondola.
You have to go on a gondola, or you come and party with me at
Do
events.
they play music?
They do, and they sing. So it's really cute.
They got striped shirts.
Yes, and the hat
thing.
and the whole.
The long
kit
Wait,
and
how do
caboodle.
people get a hold of that?
NapaValleyGondola.com. They're also on Instagram. You can call them. You can email them.
Okay.
They're in the Napa Valley Register. It's awesome. And then
we
you
get
can
all this in
also
the show
find
notes,
me at different wine events. I'll be pouring at 2 different events coming up. The May 2nd through the 5th, there's going to be a really awesome event happening in both Berkeley and San Francisco called the POC Food and Wine Festival. It's going to be 50 different producers, all these different vendors. Each different winemaker actually gets paired up with a chef, a BIPOC chef, and we have a specific wine and they have a specific food, and you come in and you taste. I'm gonna be doing some barrel samples of my Muscat, and then my new friend Miguel is going to be he's going to be making these Filipino empanadas with laing, which is this delicious Filipino coconut based taro leaf.
So it's like
dish.
lumpia.
It's not like lumpia. It's it's taro leaves and coconut milk, and he's using shiitake mushrooms, but you typically will see pork or chicken.
See, now
And then it's taro leaves are so good.
taro leaves sound like something you wear around your neck to keep the wolf man away or something like that.
Ooh, that would be fantastic.
I think that's garlic, John.
That's garlic for the
One or the other,
vampiros.
Taro
and then
leaves.
Yeah,
they
what's
take
the
your,
other
and then
event?
they take your typical, and then he takes your typical empanada style, so a little bit more circular, and he stuffs it with the lying. So he makes them fast friendly, so you can actually go through and you can walk around with your lying empanada and your little glass of Muscat.
Brian,
Sounds like a good pairing.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I went to this Filipino restaurant a few months ago and I had lying for the first time, and I was like, damn, this is delicious. And I basically when I got paired with Miguel, I was like, oh great, this is awesome, Muscat and lying would be awesome. And then we get on our first phone call together, and he's describing describing this dish, and I'm like, is this what you're making? He's like, yes. I was like, this is what I envisioned. So like another like manifestation. And then the other event that I'm going to be pouring at is going to be really fun. It's called Big West Wine Fest, and it's over in Guerneville. And I'm going to be pouring on Sunday, and I'm going to be staying at Johnson Beach. So friends come and stay too.
Beach party.
Beach
Wine
party.
tasting.
Wine tasting. It's going to be great.
I'm so happy the sun's coming out.
God, right? I just feel like 10 times happier.
Although a little like hazy cloud kind of moved in.
It's nice and warm
Like
though.
75. This is
Same while you were gone.
78 this week.
yeah. This weather this week is like the perfect spring
Shit.
Sonoma weather.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Where were
That's
you?
why we live here.
It is.
Where'd you go?
Where'd I go?
Yeah.
Well, Sam was up in Tahoe, so he
in
missed
Tahoe?
kind of like it was weird, gray, rainy,
Well, I
cold,
missed
windy.
the weekend of the cold rain, and then the really big rain. I was watching on my phone while sitting poolside on the beach in Kona. Right. Yeah, I was
Drinking Kona coffee.
drinking Kona coffee and Mai Tais. Found a new appreciation for the Mai Tai. Mai Tais are delicious. And especially like there, I don't think the Mai Tai on like a cold winter day in Sonoma would quite hit the same way.
That's the move. I only drink Mai Tais when I'm in Hawaii.
Oh, totally.
It's like
So-
gambling when
Fresh
I'm in
fruit.
Vegas.
Right.
I don't gamble in Roner
You're not-
Park at the casino.
You're not going down to Grayton and putting 20 on the table.
No.
No. But you go, yeah. Eric Bradley, winemaker, it perfects the Mai Tai recipe and is like super obsessed with Mai Tais, but he always goes to Hawaii like over Christmas time. So through the month of December, that's his like he's working on his Mai Tai recipe. So there's a lot of like December Mai Tais in the Bradley household.
Got to use the orgeat or orgeat, whatever the hell they
exactly.
call it, and the fresh squeezed lime juice. You got to use crushed ice, fresh mint. There's a
They know how to do it.
system.
They've been doing it for a while.
Thank you so much for coming
Check out
today.
Ward 4.
So much fun.
I'm glad we got to
I'm so glad.
connect. Thank you, Sam.
And when you
Justin,
have,
such a pleasure.
shout out to Sonoma Magazine and Abby Peterson,
Thanks, Abby.
Winemaker to watch.
winemaker to watch. And she was Justin was the only winemaker that I didn't know, so need to
Yeah.
get her on the show.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And shout out Eileen. You take great photos.
That was a cool photo.
That was
I was
awesome.
slightly in the background and I got admonished, trying to photobomb the winemakers to watch. Watch me too. Watch me too.
All right, everybody. Thanks
Sam
for
was
listening.
photobombing the winemakers to watch.
Talk to you guys next week. Peace and love.
All right. Thank you.